The problem with talking about Airbnb SEO is that we probably complicate something that is actually fairly simple.
Hi there, welcome to another Monday Talk. I'm Rory and today I'm with Christian and we're going to be talking about Airbnb. More specifically, we're going to be talking about Airbnb SEO, which is search engine optimization. So Christian, what exactly is search engine optimization when it comes to Airbnb? Sorry, it's a deep question.
Well, search engine optimization is a term that we have borrowed from but especially in the past, people are trying to optimize their websites to get higher rankings on Google or other search engines. And the idea is that you optimize your listing or your website for search in that engine, right? So it goes without saying, but the idea is that a lot of people put a lot of research into exactly what is it the different search engines prefer and like, and so on, to then favor your listing over other listings, right? So it's looking into what kind of description should you write, or what kind of photos should you use, or what can you do to somehow manipulate Airbnb search engine to favor your listing.
And the reward, I guess, is that the higher up you are, the more clicks you get.
That's a theory, right?
Yeah.
That the higher up you are, the more people will see your listing, the more people will see your listing, the more people will book your listing, the more you can charge for that listing.
Yeah. So how exactly does that work with Airbnb then? Because it's not necessarily a search engine in itself.
Well, it is a search engine, because you type in something and you search, right? And then something defines what then appears as results for that search. But it is very, very different to traditional SEO in website search engines such as Google, because there's a little bit more of a static kind of list of results that they show that can very clearly be indexed. Of course, they have billions of websites to index, but it's a very clear indexing. There's a first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, depending on content on this website and the rules they have set up for indexing. The difference in Airbnb or any booking portal is that you need to put in which dates you're interested in traveling. You need to put in how many people you'll be traveling with. There might be, a person might be booked, might not be booked, so they might be shown, they might not be shown, and so on. So even without any kind of search engine algorithm, the results will still be different depending on many different factors every single day. So it's a much more complex kind of search algorithm than what Google uses. Google is also complex, but in a different way, because there's only one factor.
So as a property manager, you wouldn't really think about optimizing it in that kind of way, the same as Google, when you think about your property on Airbnb.
Well, yes, you would. You should think about it in the sense that, for example, in the old days, what you would do on Google is you would look into your meta tags, your meta description, your titles, your paragraph, your photos, your alt title, and so on in the photos. The same way you should do in your listing, you should make sure that your thing has a good title that's easy to find, that will maybe mirror what people will be searching for if they're looking for. You should add things in your description that is related to what people will be searching for. They will define your description and so on. So you should think about it a little bit like a website you're trying to optimize. But even more than that, you should probably think about it as something that you're trying to optimize for the people who will be seeing it, than just for a machine. We can only assume that Airbnb is spending a lot of time and energy on trying to make their search algorithm display the results that would be the most useful for their customers. Mm-hmm. So instead of thinking about when we optimize listing is how can we trick the algorithm, we should just think instead, what do we think the algorithm wants? Well, the algorithm wants to be to present results that are as useful as possible for the customer. So instead of thinking about how do we trick the algorithm, we should think, what do we assume Airbnb would like the customer to see?
Yeah, so for Airbnb, their goal is to get people to book apartments. And obviously they can only do that through your listing. They don't have, they depend on your listing being attractive enough that people will click on it and then book.
Yes.
So what criteria are Airbnb looking for, or I guess to get a conversion from a customer in your listing? What exactly are they judging your listing on?
Well, that's the difficult part because nobody knows, right? But we can only assume that what Airbnb's search algorithm favors is what they think will be the most useful for their customers. I still think the most important indicators will be stuff the most important conversion indicators will be stuff like price, reviews, pictures, whatever. But the difference is that you can't change reviews. You can, as you said, it's a long-term strategy, but it's the guest releases review. The price, of course, you can change up and down, but it's more of a simple metric. And then stuff like photos, you can take nicer photos, but you can change, of course, the decor and so on. But it's also a bigger thing is that you cannot change location. Description you can change. You can change it now, you can change it tomorrow, you can change it the day after. Of course, you should be describing the same things, but you can describe it in different ways. Or you can fill out all the different boxes, or you can translate it to more languages, or you can give us much information, do the house area manual, I can't remember what it's called, but the map around the neighborhood. The more of all this stuff you fill in, the more Airbnb is going to favor your listing. I don't think this is going to skyrocket you, but I do think this is what gives the edge over people who don't fill it in.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are losing out on this because they don't consider it important, which I think is a shame. Because the reason why it's getting so much attention in Airbnb, SEO, forums, and so on, is not because it's super important compared to the others. The most important is still the reviews, for example, but because it is something you can manipulate, something you can improve, something you can make better very easily.
Especially when you're in a market with 10,000 other Airbnbs that you're competing against, those tiny differences. When you've got 5 filters on your search and you're down to 3,000, and that tiny ranking differences, if you put in a house guide or if you put in one tick box that someone else hasn't, it can make all the difference.
Yes, I think so. I think it's in search for Airbnb failure, especially in conversion. Right? If you read it, first of all, if you're a customer and you need some information to decide, well, if the information is available, you're more likely to just book it instead of you have to ask the questions and so on. I don't remember what else I was going to say there.
From what you've seen so far, how kind of logical is Airbnb SEO at the moment? Does it seem like something you can quite clearly break down and
No, not really. That's why. Well, I don't know. We've done our own studies on a few different things, not been able to find any conclusive answers or results from that. But there are some people that have done some studies where they can see patterns and whatever. But that's also why I think it's important to not get too lost in the complexity of hacking the algorithm.
Yeah.
And instead focus a lot more on trying to make your listing as think of yourself as a supplier to the supermarket Airbnb. What would Airbnb prefer your product to look like to benefit their customers the most?
Yeah.
Because then you are optimizing towards conversion for the guest, and in theory, you should do that also optimized toward Airbnb favor.
I think, that's true. You lose a bit of reasoning when you start kind of doing things just for the sake of not doing them, but for the sake of appealing to an algorithm. When in reality it's much less complex. It's just what looks nice to a customer and what's going to make a customer book.
Yeah.
Because that is what Airbnb wants at the end of the day.
Yes.
Yeah.
And all the work they do, I'm sure they do a lot of work on their algorithm. First of all, to make it hard to hack, to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
But also to make sure that their customers get the best possible results. Airbnb wants to rent apartments. Every time they rent, they earn money.
Yeah.
They want to in theory, probably sell as expensive as possible because they earn more commission. But number one, they want people to book on Airbnb instead of booking.com or somewhere else.
If you could boil it down to 5 things, simple steps that people can take to make sure that their listing is in a good position to start doing well, what would you boil it down to?
Okay. Write a nice title. Nice title means something that stands out a little bit, maybe it's all caps, or uses some fun words or something, but at least it's descriptive of what you have. So if there's one really cool highlight, a nice terrace, nice view, hot tub, focus on that, otherwise just make it stand out a little bit from all the others around. Next one is description. Fill out every single box that Airbnb gives you. Consider that if you are a guest thinking about booking, what would you like to know? It might be trivial to us, but nearest transport lines might be very important. Approximate taxi time and price from the airport might be very important. Nearest parks, if family focus, might be very important.
Yeah.
And then even sometimes people will ask parking options. Maybe highlight it already in the description. Maybe they will. So even though it's listed as a full property, if it's a full property, so we have. But sometimes people ask, is this a room or full property we'll share? So highlight this all yours and so on. Like focus on all the things that could make a guest doubt before booking or make them ask a question. Ask that for them already.
Yeah.
And then of course be descriptive and use the summary to highlight again the absolute best about the apartment or the area or something like that, because the summary is shown to the people when they click into the listing. The rest is only shown after they click read more.
Yeah.
And then photos. Well, again, obvious, but a number of reasons here. One is take good photos that represent your apartment nicely. Take it at the best time of day with good lighting and so on, so it looks really, really good. Try to make a little bit of scene setting that can kind of put pictures of people's head there. Clearly show every single room, exactly what the layout is and so on, but also maybe do some cooler something photos that can highlight if there's special organized or something. And then if you have things like, for example, if you offer to separate beds and put them back together, then maybe do one photo with the camera in a certain angle, one with them separate and one with them together, so the guests can see this. If you have a sofa that turns into a bed, then maybe have one where it's made into a bed and one where it's put up as a sofa. So like all these things that clearly shows the guests what the options they have and so on. And then this is actually a ranking thing as well, as we talked about earlier. But in theory, the longer people spend on your listing, even if they don't book, the better. At least many people think that. So make sure that you also show a lot of pictures that are all relevant, and then because it also makes people spend more time on your listing. And then order these photos. Make sure the very, very best is the first, because that's a thumbnail that we have to search, and then make sure the next 4 are the 4 next most interesting color-wise and feature-wise, because those are the 4 that will be shown in the mosaic at the top when you view the listing. After that, anything else, just order them maybe by what they're displaying. So if there's a few of the living room, have them in order. If there's a few of the bedroom, have them in order. A few of the kitchen, have them in order, instead of it being a random mess.
And that achieves what you just said about keeping them on your listing if they're kind of going through each room.
Exactly. It makes it much more logical sense that if they keep jumping back and forth, they might lose track of exactly what it is that they're seeing.
Yeah.
And then...
so we've got title, description, photos.
Yeah.
Reply to reviews, I guess, would be the last.
In response rate, response rate in every sense, to answer messages and answer reviews and review guests and all of this as quickly as possible. Of course. This is not a change you can make to your listing. This is something that you need to adopt permanently. This approach.
As a habit.
Yes, that you do this. Again, this is common sense, but this really helps a lot. And this is even if a guest says like something very, very basic, very, very simple, still reply to them immediately. If something they could Google themselves, still reply to them immediately. Because Airbnb measures your response rates constantly.
Okay. I feel like we've kind of comprehensively covered a lot of what Airbnb has to offer and how we can make the best of it. Thank you for joining us for this Monday talk. We'll see you for the next one.